My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts.
There you go. We got sound now. Thank you very much. A lot is going on in this country, folks. A lot is going on in this country that has to do with subversion. If this is your first time watching this show, first off, you'll know that on-air button is a huge problem for me on this thing. But other than that, you're going to know that there is an ongoing problem with subversion, with communism, and, well, let's just get into the warning order, and we're going to go ahead and start talking about this now. Sorry about the loss of sound there at the beginning. It never fails. It never fails. I do every single thing right on this show, and that stupid button gets me every freaking time. Oh, all right. Well, we'll just cast that to the side. At least you guys notified me real quick that there was no sound. So, Jim, we got to do something about this. We definitely got to do something about this thing. So, if tonight's the first night you've been watching this show, you've never tuned in before. No telling how many people we lost at the beginning because there's no sound. But you're going to hopefully see the reality of what's going on. I did a little pre-show there just a few minutes ago to talk about. I talked to a friend yesterday who literally hates Donald Trump, hates him with a passion. Although they don't know Donald Trump, they know the character that they've seen on television. They know the image of him that they've been fed by the media, and they know what he tweets, I guess. But the reality is they don't even look to see what he's passed or what he's done to try to pull back from what Obama did, because they don't understand what Obama did, because it was never reported. What Obama did was never reported by the mainstream media because they're all a part of this. But a lot of stuff has really come to light over the past week, I guess, where we've been talking about stuff, and I guess a couple things have happened. One is I've started to realize that the majority of people in media, although I knew this before, that they just don't know. They don't know the reality of what's going on. The majority of media is filled with people. Well, you know what? I think this guy who I've been on Newsmax before with many, many times, not in a long time, but I think he's going to give you the perfect example of where most people in media are. Now, Harlan Hill, as you all that may follow Dennis Michael Lynch, and I can't tell you enough times to get away from that guy. I don't know what else to do. I went on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, and I was amazed at how many people that I love and know that are following Dennis Michael Lynch. And I don't understand what I have to tell you to get you convinced that his page is great as far as news collection goes, but that's all it is. It's news collection. That guy is a narcissist. He's almost borderline psychopath. And this guy, Harlan Hill, is his main man. He's the guy that was filming him when he walked off the set at Newsmax and screwed a bunch of people out of work, and did it because he had a little temper tantrum. But I'm going to use Harlan Hill as a perfect example, and hopefully the sound will come up on this, as a perfect example of what's going on in media. All right, so let me cue this up.
And she was making the argument that she was of special benefit. It turns out the reason she needed this, the reason she wanted to be here, was because she wanted to represent her Russian client, a big company, in a lawsuit here. But why would you give a visa to her, especially after she had been denied?
You know, I don't know.
Exactly, Harlan. You don't know. You don't know because you're not an expert in anything. That guy, I mean, just take another quick look at him.
And she was making...
Okay, bow tie, and glasses, she can talk all she wants in there. This guy is just another example of what's happened in media, okay? We went from people who honestly did their job by reporting the facts that were given to them by experts, okay? That's basically what journalism was. They went out and collected information, almost like investigators a long time ago, or like investigators are now. They would go and collect the information, and then they would share that information with the world for whatever their holier-than-thou reasons were. The reality is news media and journalism have almost always been for two reasons and two reasons only. One, when a government was getting too big for its britches and the people were getting angry and people went out and collected information and disseminated it, like our good buddy Drago. If you didn't watch that show, we need to replay that sometime. In communist Poland, where they had an underground system of people that were collecting information and disseminating that information. And then the other thing is journalism is simply there, or should be simply there, or was there before, to inform the people of what's going on. But the reality is, in modern day journalism, it's two other things. It's advertising money, that's all. Or, in other words, it's just clickbait. That's what they call it now. But to TV lies the same way, just to get you to watch and turn it on. They make breaking news even bigger than it really is. And when it is really big, they don't tell you exactly what's going on because they're afraid it's not going to meet their narrative, which gives you the other issue. What media actually does is that they are actually spinsters for the propagandists of the Communist Party, of globalists, socialists, whatever you want to call them, and organized crime. Listen, that guy said it himself better than anybody. I don't know. But then what did he do? He went on to explain what he thought it was. And folks, there is the problem in media. This Sunday, I watched part of the Sunday shows, and I'm not going to lie to you. I watched CNN specifically because I wanted to see exactly what they were going to talk about and what they're going to spin. Now, I literally stopped watching TV. I don't watch TV. Game of Thrones came on last night. I watched that. And that was pretty cool, but I don't really watch TV anymore. But I did turn on CNN on Sunday, and I wanted to see exactly how they were going to spin all this stuff, what they were actually going to talk about. And, of course, they're going to talk about President Trump and collusion with Russian, and they're going to talk about Donald Trump Jr. and these emails, and they're going to talk about these Russian spies that were in the room with them when they were having these meetings. And then one guy, I was so impressed with the guy. I don't have his name here, but he comes on. He used to be the editor for not the New York Times. I don't remember, New York Weekly or something. I don't remember what it was. I wish I had his name. I tried to tweet him, but unfortunately he didn't have Twitter, I guess. But he came on and made a tremendous amount of sense about something that really sparked my brain, because then the media turned around. Of course, they got him off there as quickly as possible. the guy interviewing all these people was, and I forget his name, round little guy with big white teeth, and is about as knowledgeable about reality, what's going on in this world, as a squirrel that walks across the power line and gets shocked. The guy knows absolutely nothing. He's an entertainment reporter, or is what he originated as, and now somehow he's some kind of political guru, and I forget what his name is. Him and Jeff Zucker look like they were born out of the same egg. But anyway, so he's reporting this. They get rid of the guy, but what the guy said that I did like on there was that the media is getting spun up and almost addicted, if you will, to the leftists. He didn't use the word leftist, but he said to the hatred of Donald Trump. It's gotten to a point where they can't even report anything without it having a negative spin on Donald Trump. And, of course, the CNN anchor is going to shoot back at that. If you guys can remember what his name is, let me know. I don't remember what his name is. He was the entertainment reporter on CNN, and now somehow he's the political expert on there. But he basically that's what they did. They went into a panel interview. And then the panel interview, of course, just started slamming President Trump. And the fact is, this guy and what he said sparked something in me because, and I tweeted about it at that point in time, what we see extreme hatred of President Trump, either based on political ideology or it's really political ideology. It's just the fact that he doesn't agree with their globalist ways. The majority of these people that are in the media are people with no education, people that have, yeah, that's right, I said it, that most of them don't have even a college degree. And not that you need a college degree to have wisdom, but no, it wasn't Smirkanish. But you do need, if you're going to go out there and pontificate all this stuff, and you have no college education, and you're a leftist, you're going to be more susceptible to believing whatever you're told. Now, so what happens is basically you have people that have the agenda. They have the narrative, and their job is to put the narrative out. And then the rest of these Harlan Hill types that have no clue about what is going on, almost 100% of them actually feel that they get addicted to being on camera. And what they do is they go out there and they pontificate about stuff that they know nothing about. But they get off on people telling, either arguing with them or agreeing with them. Richard Fowler is one of these people. Meghan McCain is one of these people. The rest, who is this person here? Daniel Gonzalez. Why don't you go look at my resume, Daniel, and you'll see what I actually do know. So these people that have no experience in anything, they're not veterans, they've never been in law enforcement, they never worked for a government agency. I've worked for 4. They have no understanding. They don't even have a degree in political science. They're not doctors. They don't have any type of understanding of the insurance business. But yet they'll talk about every single one of those things and argue a point just because it gets them on TV and because it makes them feel and then they walk around believing that they actually know stuff. So you have that group of people, which really actually, tell you the truth, makes up the majority of people in media. And then you have the other smaller group of people that just have extreme agendas. Now, remember, I asked for liberals to specifically come on and watch this show and shut their mouths, and then they can go over and say whatever they want to say. They can email me. They can come on here afterwards. What I'm asking, though, is for you to keep your comments to a minimum and just listen to what I'm saying. And that's the hardest part for liberals because they're very emotional. Now, I've said this before. I know I'm going all over the place here. I'll sum it all up. I've talked to people who are liberal, and they don't appreciate me calling them leftists or communists, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not talking to those people. You can't help those people. Most of them are lost completely, and they're not going to get it until they get it. In other words, they get the freaking, David Horowitz is a perfect example. David Horowitz was a hardcore communist until one of his friends got killed by the same people that they were hanging with. And I don't know the exact, I interviewed him on the story once, but I don't remember exactly what he said. But it shocked him into seeing reality. And most of these people that are leftists and further to the left, the communists, they're not going to get it until something like that happens. And then they're going to realize that, wow, maybe I was 180 degrees out wrong. But I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to liberals here, because I want you to understand what is going on. Now, getting back to this media, you have the vast majority of people in the media that are like this Harlan Hill character that really knows nothing. He has no, not that an advanced degree would do anything for you. The majority of the things that are broken in this country have been broken by Harvard graduates, so that doesn't really, an advanced degree doesn't do anything. What does it for you is the fact that somebody has knowledge, experience, and understanding. Not necessarily in those order. I usually go knowledge, understanding, experience, but you can gain understanding after you get experience. But that's why you have like if you're a fireman, you have your probie time, your probationary time. You have this time when you have to go through a probationary period so that you can gain the experience, so you can be taught and given the knowledge, and then once you get out there and you start to understand, those three things come together: the knowledge, the experience, and the understanding. Most of the people in these areas of the media have none of that stuff, or they only have one. They have some knowledge of something, and the Meghan McCain's, for instance, who, basically her dad is John McCain, and somehow he spawned her and gave her some kind of knowledge. I don't know her, but I do know that her dad is a complete failure ever since he did something honorable in the military 50 years ago, and now we're supposed to continue to worship this guy when in fact he's closer to George Soros than most anybody should ever be in this country without being charged with treason. So I don't know what makes her great, except for the fact that she just is his daughter. So no experience, no understanding, and very little knowledge is what makes up the majority of people. The other people in media are actually actors in the Communist Party and in this globalist movement. Now, they're not going to call themselves communists, and eventually we're going to have to stop using that term, because I think the reality is maybe deep down in there they're still the communist mindset. They're definitely Marxist, but I think they've evolved to a point where hold on a second here. I don't know. So you're not listening. I'm not going to get in an argument with you, dude, whoever you are right now, because I'm trying to make a point. So the best thing you do is shut your Twitter muscles off for about 15 minutes, maybe an hour, and listen to this, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So that's the last time I even entertained that guy. So these other people in media, they are extreme leftists. I've seen them. I've been up there. They are terrorist-minded. They believe in anything, any means necessary to bring on the political change that they believe is what is how this country should be ran. They literally believe that violence and subversive tactics, lies, fake stories, anything is okay as long as it gets their agenda forward. Now, how does that play into... Now, this is important for you to understand and to envision this, okay? You have this large group of people who know very little, if anything, who are actors, who go up there and parade around so that they can get ratings and make themselves feel good. They don't really care that much about the country. Like Dennis Michael Lynch, he's a salute and say he loves the military, and then he'll turn around and crap all over veterans when they're either standing in for him, like I did on his show, or when they're just in his in the studio. You know, you got those types of people, but then you got other people that they just don't know anything and they don't care, and they just go up there just to act. Then on the other side, you got these people who control the narrative, and the people that control the narrative spin the other people up, and these people are very susceptible to hatred. So they start to believe over and over again they're saying these things in support of this narrative, because they're told you're going to get to come back. You can come back on and be on the show again if you know you did a great job. And so they come back and they're even nastier and nastier. Lisa Durden was the one that I was on Newsmax with, who's a Black Lives Matter terrorist, and she was going off on me and I went off on her, And she tried to do the same thing on Tucker Carlson, except she took it to another level, and she lost her job over it. But there's still people that are going to be all over it. Tamika Mallory is another example of these people. Tamika Mallory was this little loudmouth girl who came on the radio with me. And listen, I don't disparage women. If there's a mature woman, and there's tons of mature women that watch this show, Debbie Birchnotter, she's my mentor from the FBI, just tuned in. This is a woman that you wouldn't want to mess with. She's an amazing woman. She doesn't go around pushing, her thoughts on everybody else. But if she has to stand up and have a debate with somebody, she'll let them say what they need to say, and she'll say what she needs to say. She's usually right, so she'll win. But this Tamika Mallory person, complete loudmouth, 5'0" bully, also best buddies with Linda Sarsour, the woman who called for jihad on the United States, the woman who professes to be a feminist but yet believes and pushes Sharia law onto the American public. And leftists are stupid enough to believe that this is somehow okay, that they'll just do the Sharia law on their part, but they're not going to do it anywhere else in the country. But that's not the way Sharia law works. But anyway, they're best buddies. They were organizers of the Women's March. And again, just like the media, they snowed people into believing that all these things are for the greater good, for the utopia on earth, and they get people spun up. So just like the media, you have this majority of people that don't know hardly anything, and then you have these people over here who are controlling the narrative, and they infect these people with hatred and with lies, and the people believe it's true because it's coming from these people who own and run and maintain and massage the narrative, and so it spreads. It spreads. These people start it. These people spread it. The people that control the narrative start it. The people that come on in the talking heads, they spread it. And what happens? It goes into society and it spreads even further. They start hating Donald Trump. Or when we were going through the election process, they would hate people in their own party. In the Republican Party, you had media spreading stuff about different candidates, and people say, I hate that guy or hate this. They weren't even really looking closely, Marco Rubio, at what was actually going on. Marco Rubio is a lazy-ass kid. I call him a kid because he's in his same age as I am, but he hasn't really ever done anything. He's somehow ridden a silver bullet to the top. And then he goes out and apparently, he's like, these people are constantly sponsoring these different types of bills where they have just a fringe of something that isn't right. And when you look closely at it, it normally has to do with changing the way we look at, like, for instance, hate speech, to the point where you may not even be able to say something without getting in trouble. I'm sure if Marco Rubio and others in the Republican Party, even, not just the Democratic Party, Republican Party, had their way, this speech would be filtered and we wouldn't be able to say whatever we want. So, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at what somebody just wrote about 9/11. Forget about that stuff for a minute, all right? Just forget about 9/11 and all this stuff that's happened. We have to look at what's happening now. Now, what I'm saying about the media and why I started off with the media is because it's the easiest way for you all to see exactly what's going on. The few control the narrative. The many are infected by it because they have they have different self-absorbed agendas. They want to be seen. They're too busy on Twitter. They're too busy on Instagram, taking pictures of themselves, doing all these things that they literally don't take time out to literally stop and say, how did they get that information? Anonymous sources? Can we go off of that information? It's just an anonymous source. Well, hold on a second. Who is the person telling me this information? What experience do they have? Who are they to come up with these opinions? Jim Acosta. Who's Jim Acosta to come up with the opinions that he has? He tweeted back at Donald Trump today, and I'm going to read that for you real quick because I copied it because he's an idiot. And he says in his tweet, calling the American news media fake news may feel good to some. It may energize the base, but it's bad for our democracy. Listen, Jim Acosta, you freaking waste of human breath. The fact is, calling the media out for what they are is probably the greatest thing we could do in this country. But see, that's exactly what I'm talking about, folks. The core group of people that control the narrative, they don't want these people questioning the narrative. They don't want them questioning their motivation. They don't want them questioning anything that they do. So they come out and publicly slam the president. And then the people that have bought into the lie, they're going to buy into that. That's the way this works. They don't want you questioning it. They want you getting behind them. That's why people are starting new and interesting, it's interesting to them, political parties to back the Democratic Party, to support the Democratic Party, to get other people in there. Listen, it doesn't matter what people say. This is a newfangled sect of the Democratic Party. The truth is they're just trying different ways to get people to vote for the Democratic Party when the Democratic Party is moving far left and they've kind of been found out. This is all by design. So with this person that I was talking to, getting back to that, and I'm going to wrap all this into one thing here. The person that I talked to yesterday, when they finally calmed down a little bit, what I was able to explain to them is that what you see in the hatred that you feel for the president is, in fact, a narrative that you've been sold. Now, anybody that knows me, I was longer than anyone else in the media. I was hosting Sean Hannity's radio show last year before anybody else went on air and said, I'm talking about TV or anything. I did it on Newsmax. I did it on, when I hosted the Hannity show, 17 million people listening. I said, listen, I support President-elect, candidate Trump at that point in time, and this is why. I laid out that he had operational experience. I laid out that, that he has a good and loving family that cares about him, which is important. I laid out that he is somebody who has failed and then came back from failure. And I also laid out the fact that he's not a politician. He's not a part of the Republican Party. He's not a part of the Democratic Party. He flies by his own design. And I felt as though it was time that America had gotten to critical mass with these two private companies, the Democratic and Republican Party, that we needed somebody to go in there and just shake it up. So that happened. However, I will criticize him just as fast as I'll criticize anybody else. And I'm not somebody, hence the reason why I'm not on CNN, and you rarely, if ever, will see me on Fox again, because I come on and I tell the truth. I don't go by a narrative. I don't wait for somebody to give me the narrative. They give me a topic and they say, can you talk about this? If I'm not educated in that topic, I'm not going to talk about it. But if I do know, and it's a field in which I have expertise or some knowledge in, I will go there and analyze it or give them what I feel. But I'm not going to vary how I feel or what I say for any news media. I don't play by a narrative. I play by the truth. And the same thing goes with anybody that I vote for. You better get up there and you better do your job. I'm not voting for a king. I'm not voting for queens. I'm not voting for princes or princesses or jesters or anybody else. I'm voting for somebody to get up there and do the job that they've been elected to do. And they're lucky. They're actually lucky, because the majority of these people that are in office, if they had to show their resume and literally say, I'm applying for this job and I'd like to be interviewed if possible, just like we do, they would never get hired. First and foremost, because they're weirdos. The majority of people that are in Washington, D.C. would lie to your face about anything. They're weird. They're maniacal. It seems like psychopaths. It doesn't seem like it's true. Psychopaths and narcissists flock to Washington, D.C. So does organized crime, because Washington, D.C. is crime unchecked. Even Wall Street is somewhat crime unchecked, but they actually can go to jail. When is the last time, besides, Grimm, Michael Grimm, who used to be on the same squad I was on in the FBI. I rolled in there after he was already gone. And I think Debbie knows who Michael Grimm is. He went to jail, but that was for something he did before he got into Washington, D.C. You're not going to find a congressman or a senator or a judge There's this judge that went to jail. I just saw something. I played part of it on here a couple of months ago when I was going through that spat with Viral Hog. A judge who was drunk driving, did her time, and some kind of lying about all kinds of stuff, did her time in jail, got out, and went back to the bench. You're not going to see these people removed, and that's why organized crime flocks to Washington, D.C. That's why people that are psychopathic and narcissists flock there, because they can reign unchecked. So if I vote for somebody for president or congressman or senator, I sure as heck, I'm not going to put them up there on a pedestal and say, I trust you to do a good job. I'm going to go ahead and go on about my life. No, that's not what I'm going to do, and neither should you. You should be keeping these people in check. And I've criticized President Trump about Ivanka and Jared. Not that I think that Ivanka's a bad person. I don't really know anything about Jared. I don't know Ivanka. I don't even know President Trump. But I don't agree with nepotism. I think it's one of the biggest hindrances we have in government, and I would like to see it gone, and I'd like to see him step up to the plate and say, okay, we can't do this. I'd like to use these people because I trust them, but unfortunately, the country is right. They hired a president. They didn't hire his kids, and there's no reason why they should be representing the United States of America unless they want to go through the entire system, get vetted, fill out their DD or no, their SF-86, Jared, properly. They just shouldn't be up there. Okay, so that's what I'd like to see. And I'm going to hold him to fire, and I'm going to criticize him. I'm also going to criticize the president about the fact that he hasn't fired Reince Priebus, that Reince Priebus hasn't fired all the people that work in the White House that worked for the Obama. That's nonsense. We hired this president to get rid of all these people. We hired him to completely change what was going on in the White House, and that really hasn't happened. And I'm listen, again, I'm not somebody who's going to come up here and fall to a narrative. I'll criticize where it needs to be criticized. I'll tell the truth when it needs to be told. The truth needs to be told. And when I don't know something, I'm going to go find somebody else that does, that knows it better than I do. So let's look at the whole picture and review this real quick. You got the media. You got this core group of people who are leftist. They're communist. In certain cases, organized crime. And what they do is they work directly with Washington, D.C., with these narcissists, psychopaths, people you would never hang out with. I met some girls years and years ago that said they went to a party with a bunch of different congressmen. And the weirdness that they said they felt was just horrible. And I'm not just them. I've heard this from that point on. People that hang out around there, people that have been staffers, strange, weird stuff going on in Washington, D.C. So you have the media. You have the narrative spreaders. You have the people that go up there, the actors in the media that just say whatever they need to say so they can get on TV, that don't really know anything and give you the information. You have the people, the American people, that are sitting here trying to find the truth, or you have the rest of the people that are like this. They're like, yeah, what do you got for me? Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's the truth. They don't even take a look. They just listen, and that's what they go with. The coordination between the media and Washington, D.C. is profound. It's so profound that it's no different than if you are sitting in a courtroom and you have the defendant and you have the plaintiff, you have the prosecutor, I guess you could say, and the defendant, and they go into court, and you have these two attorneys that are trained in the art of lying, trained in the art of masking the truth just enough so they don't break the law and can skirt the law so that they can get their person found not guilty or guilty by the prosecution. And they're arguing this in front of a judge who is a politician, really, and in front of 12 people that have no experience at all in legal matters. That's why they're chosen. They're not chosen because they know. They're chosen because they don't know, and they're easily moldable. So that's you. So you have the media and the politicians. That's like the two attorneys, and they're molding you, and they're indoctrinating you, and they're basically programming your brain. I heard a speaker. I can't remember his name now, but he said you should turn the TV off because your brain wants to be programmed. And if you don't program it yourself, it's still going to be programmed. And that's what happens. Just like those 12 jurors, the American people and really the world just sit back and, they're like robots. And they're just trained to believe this or believe that. They're angry. They don't even really know the reality. You ask them for facts. They don't have facts. So what you should be starting to see is this system that I'm showing you of programming the people, creating the narrative, spreading the narrative, unknowingly in a feeding frenzy, spreading the narrative and spreading it how it gets spread from the media to the people. And then they unknowingly spread it because they think they know. Because they've always lived like that. They've always been liberal. They've always been conservative. I'm conservative. You better not say anything about Trump because you're a stinking liberal. I had somebody call me stinking liberal when the reality is I'm as far from a stinking liberal as you could ever get. But because I criticized something that Trump did, they just, oh, man, we can't have that. Well, why did you vote for a president that you can't criticize? You might as well just elect a king. So whether it's on the right or the left, people get programmed, and they get programmed to be angry and programmed to believe it. The separation of people saying I'm gay and and you're coming down on me. No, I'm not coming down on you because you're gay. I'm coming down on you because I'm sick and tired of hearing about the fact of who you sleep with. I don't really care. Or the fact that this transgender issue is out of control. I'm going to talk about that. But before I transition into that and show you even further how things are changing, not really changing, how things are being exposed faster and faster, I want to show you that it's not just in the United States. Let's look at Justin Trudeau, for instance. Omar Khadr, I think is the guy's name, was just awarded $8 million. Was just awarded $8 million. This comes off of FoxNews.com. And he was in Gitmo, and he's a Canadian citizen. This guy right here. This is the dirtbag Prime Minister of Canada. Thank you, Canada. This guy killed an American soldier. He was in Gitmo. Why he wasn't killed while he was in Gitmo or killed on the field of battle, I don't know. After they determined he had no information, the guy should have just been killed. He's an enemy combatant who killed an American soldier. He should be killed. But that's not what happened. Now he's a millionaire. He was given $8 million by the Canadian government to settle for this case. Now, what you're going to hear is Justin Trudeau's excuse and justification of that $8 million.
Freedoms protects all Canadians, even when it is uncomfortable. When the government violates any Canadian's charter rights, we all end up paying for it.
It's not uncomfortable. He's a terrorist.
Okay. Even when it's uncomfortable. So here's the deal. That guy got a reward from Justin Trudeau. It's the same as when Barack Obama released 4 cartel members from Mexico serving life terms and commuted their sentence and let them out. You have to sit back and ask why. Why is this happening? Well, I can't exactly tell you why in both of these cases. But what I can tell you, folks, is that just like the transgender issue now, there's 23, I have it written down here, 23 Republicans. I don't have their names. But 23 Republicans decided to roll with this whole agenda of allowing the Department of Defense with your taxpayer money to pay for transgender reassignment surgery in a sex change, in other words, in the military. So people can go through boot camp, say I'm transgender, and then they get everything paid for. Then they can stay in the military. So there's no. Last year they spent $3.6 billion. I think over $3 billion. $3 billion. That's enough. That's enough money for 22 F-35 jet fighters, most expensive plane ever built. It's enough money to build an entire destroyer. Enough money to buy over, I think it was like 1,300 cruise missiles. But they're going to use it to give mentally unstable individuals who have only been declassified from a psychological disorder from the DSM-R, that's the Psychology Bible, recently because they are so politicized. I'm going to say something about that in just a minute. So the transgender issue is bad. But here's what I want you all to focus on for this episode of this show. The 23, I think it said it was 23 Republicans that decided to back the DOD. Now, there's some people have refuted the fact that Mattis is the one that went out. General Mad Dog Mattis went around trying to solicit votes for this to back this bill to make sure that it stayed in place. The DOD has refuted that, but here's where I have a problem with the DOD refuting that. My niece and many, many other people that I know are in the military right now, and they are being bombarded with the transgender issue. They're not being bombarded with, we have to have mission readiness, we have to be ready to fight at any time, you have to be willing to kill because you are a killer for the U.S. military. No, they're not being bombarded with that. They're being bombarded with exception of maybe you'll have a penis dangling between the legs of somebody who is a man, but saying that they're a woman, and they're in your shower if you're a woman. Somebody else was telling me that one day the guy walks in, his name's Bob, and the next day he walks in, his name's Janet. Nothing has changed except the guy put a dress on. And they're constantly bombarded with this nonsense. But what's even worse than that is that I'm going to go on record as saying this. Mad Dog Mattis in the Department of Defense, and I know this is not going to make me popular with a lot of people, Mad Dog Mattis is a snake in the grass. Mad Dog Mattis has done nothing to change the fight. We're in the same fight as we were before. The DOD has not named the enemy fundamental Islam. They haven't done and proposed to do anything differently than they were doing before. They threw some cruise missiles over here, a Moab over there. They pumped it up in the media. They've done nothing. Meanwhile, the military, while it does seem like they're getting a little bit more mission ready, the transgender issue is still just as big. Social experimentation in the military is just as moving fast, just as much as it was a year ago. Mad Dog Mattis, I think, sold us a bill of goods based on his name and based on his, the fact that he was liked. But people forgot the fact that he became a general during the Clinton, George Bush 43, and Obama eras. And they are not to be trusted. I don't care what his name is. So you should start to see now the depth at which things are happening in Washington, D.C. This whole transgender thing was a very, not shocking, but it was a very, this whole thing spawned from, I got to find out that guy's name, from CNN this past Sunday. A guy came on and said some stuff that was really remarkably level-headed. Of course, he was quickly spirited off that show, but it made me realize what is actually going on. And what's going on is the world is falling faster than we can ever imagine to subversion, globalist ideology, communist, whatever you want to call it. It's falling faster than you can ever imagine with the help of organized crime and power players and big money people. Right along with these 23 Republicans that went 180 degrees out from what they ran on. And nothing's going to happen to them. They're not. Somebody wrote this article saying they're backtracking here. They're not backtracking. They're politicking. So they're going to say, okay, oh, well, I didn't know this or I didn't know that, or General Mattis said this and he came and said this. The reality is these people, they know that for some strange reason, money or something is keeping these people voting the way that they are. So they're getting money or they're part of the communist agenda, something. The other thing is, what's going right along with this is not just these 23 politicians that voted for the Republicans, the conservatives that were elected and then voted against this, are also the tons of Republican politicians, congressmen mostly, that are using the medical issue with the insurance issue, the Obamacare issue, to just gain power. You want my vote? You got to do this. You got to push in $40-something million. I heard one person was saying into their state somehow, some way, through some program. You got to get this money in their state, and then we'll give you the vote. You see, these people are professionals at what they do, and what they're professionals at is not doing what's best for this country. They're professionals at either furthering their communist ideology or lining their pockets because they're psychopaths. And they will make a deal with the devil. They don't care. They have no soul. So the whole thing I've been talking about, where am I leading this to, and how can we close this off? And this is where, yes, lobbyists do pay them off. See, you're back up now, and that's good. And you're exactly right. Lobbyists pay them off. But the fact is, they're all dirty. Who do you think lobbyists are? Lobbyists, not all lobbyists, but a lot of them are just old political people, or they're these people who spun the narrative up in media. They're all the same group of people. And the fact is, folks, this is it. This is the reality of this whole thing right here. Just like the DSMR, like I was talking about how it was saying that transgender was a psychological issue. Then they changed that now, and they're saying that's just a sexual preference. That's not a psychological issue. So therefore, you can't discriminate against them because it's not, it's not a debilitating disorder or whatever. I've heard that psychologists have gone around and that these different psychology associations, they've sent out, in particular, emails saying that they had diagnosed Donald Trump and that he is a psychopath or some other stuff they were calling him. And I can't think of anything less professional and unethical. These people should be barred from ever practicing psychology again. But what's scary about this is the majority of people in psychology now, just like in the educational sector, are so far liberal that if they were to trip, they would fall into a communist mindset. I mean, they would literally fall into a hammer and sickle. That's how far communist these people are. And I know there's probably people watching saying, no, that's not true. I'm a psychologist or I'm a teacher, and I'm not a leftist. I'm just liberal. Well, as I said recently in a speech that I'm actually going to air this week, when you change the sex of a man to a woman through a surgery where you reassign their sexual organs, guess what, folks? The DNA of that person still says that they are a man or a woman, whatever they were born as. Well, it's the same thing, folks. If you are so far left that you're going to buy off, and you're in the psychology field, and you're going to buy off on some email that was sent out by people saying, we diagnosed President Trump and he's a psychopath, when they have never met him. They only see a persona that's on TV. They go off the narrative that they've been told. They've never done an evaluation. They've never been asked to do an evaluation. They're not, they have no clinical scope in which they've peered in and gotten a diagnosis by actually touching, physically being in a room with that person. There's no way they can diagnose it. They don't know what's going on inside. All they see is what's reported and what they perceive is the truth on TV. If that's you, if you're one of those psychologists, your DNA says you're a communist. If you're a teacher and you're constantly indoctrinating kids by talking about how bad Trump is at school, or not allowing people to do, young people or anybody that's in school, to pledge allegiance to the flag, if you're one of these people that are in college professor and you're out there spouting all this stuff about the globalist agenda and about we don't need borders in this country, and that anybody that believes that when a white cop shoots a black kid, if they believe that's justified, that they should be murdered. Listen, your DNA says that you're a communist. It doesn't matter what you think you are. Your DNA says that's who you are. And I got news for you. If you're on the other side and you're going out and you're taking over, I don't know, like up in Oregon, you take over, some kind of Federal Reserve with guns, and you get in a shootout and somebody gets killed, or you just getting yourself in a predicament where you get killed, your DNA is telling everybody that you are a far-right radical. You may have been absolutely justified in that. But the fact is, folks, perception, this is what I'm getting at. Perception is reality. You need to see who you are, and you need to either own it or you need to flee from it if it's not who you are. But if you don't self-analyze, and if you don't analyze the people that are feeding you the narrative, if you don't analyze the politicians that you vote into office and then question what they're actually doing, and you just turn a blind eye, you are exactly what your DNA is saying that you are. And you need to realize that. This country, and the picture that I'm trying to paint for you folks, things are changing so fast because we have gotten to a point in this country where people will literally argue to the point where they will want to fight, sever friendships, break up families. In the case of the congressman, shoot people, because they have bought into this narrative that they've been fed. They're shooting people, breaking up families, fighting each other based on zero evidence that they have personally. It's all been told to them. They're making psychological judgments about people. They have no real understanding of who a person is. They're indoctrinating kids in school constantly with this is bad and this is right, when they have no proof that that is bad and that is correct. But they're doing it off a narrative. We've gotten to a point in this country, folks, and it's going to get faster and faster to the point where term limits, yeah, we need term limits. What we need is, well, let me finish this thought and I'll tell you what we need. It's gotten to a point, folks, where it's gone faster and faster to a point where we are not going to be able to come back from this. We're not. And if we're not already there, we're very, very close. Facebook, for instance, now just one of 3 different platforms that I broadcast this show on. By the way, if all of a sudden I disappear from Facebook, go over to Twitter. If I disappear from that, go over to Facebook. Hopefully people are on Facebook. YouTube. Sorry. See, we got 12 people on YouTube. Oh, poor YouTube. But here's the thing, folks. Zuckerberg here on Facebook believes that in globalism. He's a globalist. You have people from Silicon Valley. They know how to make programs. They never served in the military. They never worked for a government agency. They never had to decide whether or not they're going to pull the trigger and kill somebody, and the ramifications for that. Surely for the love of the country and protection of the people in the society in which they govern by law. And by govern, I mean enforcing the law. I'm talking about cops. People that have never served in office, in political office, They have no experience in anything. We have gotten to a point in this country, folks, where there is going to be no coming back from this. And I guess today, and watching the stuff that I watched on the Sunday shows, it's gotten to a point now where the anger and the divisiveness has gotten so bad that you can almost not even have a realistic conversation based on real evidence. People are so shocked when I tell them the reality about what I think is happening with this Donald Trump Russia thing, which I've explained on this show before. I think it's a counterintelligence operation 101. What you're seeing is the reason why these Russians are always around the president and around Donald Trump Jr. and the reason why all this stuff is always coming out is because those people are the sources for the Democratic Party. I think they may have screwed up a little bit with this woman because Obama is the one who his attorney general is the one that insisted that this woman get this Russian businesswoman get her visa when it had been revoked, and then she just happened to have a meeting with Donald Trump Jr. and then the information just happened to come out. You know, no investigation works like this. I've never seen anything. I talked last week about extortion. This is extortion 101. And if you're liberal and you're watching this, you go look up extortion, study it. You will see that's exactly what's going on. Except they don't want to get money out of the Trumps. They want the Trumps in jail and out of office. The Republican establishment hates him. The Democratic the whole Democratic and liberal side hates him. And most of the reasons why they hate him are made up, and it's made up by this group of people that I've been talking about. You got the politicians, you got the media, and I forgot to add one in there. The big money people. You haven't seen the last of Black Lives Matter. How do I know that? Because George Soros and the like have infused over $100 million into that group. The Linda Sarsours, the Tamika Mallorys, all these different people that are supported by millions of people. They're not going away. It's going to get worse. Now, here's what's happening the entire time while all this stuff is going on. These people on the left are getting more and more angry. Just regular liberals that aren't even leftists. They're getting more and more angry. And what's going to happen? They are going to start supporting what the left agenda says more and more and more. It's going to get to a point where they don't even question it. In fact, it's gotten that way already. Oh, Trump did this or Trump did that. Crazy. People that I know that are liberal have watched this show and said, I find it very insulting. You've gone over the edge. I don't say anything. I'm not Alex Jones. I'm not out here trying to get people to believe that, my iPhone has a DNA reader in it or, which he said one time or anything like that, or that the military is going to, go on some kind of operation and take over the country for the president. I'm not saying any of that nonsense. What I'm saying is, and I can't believe that people would actually say it, it just tells me that this narrative has gotten so bad, people have gotten so angry that they can't even handle it. They can't even look towards the truth. They can't look past the smoke and mirrors that have been fed to them. And they are completely controlled by sheep. And I'm afraid that we may have gotten to a point, folks, where you can't quell that anger. I mean, even in the conversation I've had with friends, they just can't get past it. They can't get past it. And when I tell them, these people in Silicon Valley, these people are globalists, they're amazed by that. They're shocked. But it's true. Look at the key terms and phrases that they use. Look at their agendas. Whenever anybody says that what they're doing is for a social benefit for the world and for the health of the planet, you're looking at people who have a globalist agenda. Let me just look here real quick what people are saying. There's so much stuff going on with so many people saying different things that it's gotten to a point now where it's hard for me to even keep up with it. And I need to have Norm on here so we can talk about this stuff. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow or Wednesday. So here's one last thing I want to leave you guys with. I didn't even go through any of the blocks today. Silicon Valley. You got to watch out for Silicon Valley, folks. Silicon Valley, first it was Wall Street. And I remember when I first came here to New York with the FBI. I was shocked when I learned about the reality. This was before The Wolf of Wall Street came out, okay? I went and learned a lot about what was happening in Wall Street, and it was drugs, prostitutes, lifestyle of, let's create a, I think they call them an IPO, or a stock, basically. Let's create a company. Let's take it public, run the stock up, and then get out before it crashes. So, whatever way the stock market and Wall Street can figure out to scam something, because their technology. Remember, first and foremost, the government's the one policing them, and the people that and they're never going to be ahead of them in technology. So, Wall Street. Although our country is built on Wall Street, when I first got here, I did not know that they were like this sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was like what you would think would be going on backstage at a rock and roll concert every night. But Silicon Valley, from what I understand, blows the doors off of Wall Street, and they have gotten into the political game way faster than Wall Street. Wall Street stays back a little bit and plays politics through money, whereas Silicon Valley plays politics by collecting your information and developing different terminology, different apps, different games, different TV shows, based on. They can monitor based on what you do online. They can monitor what the trends are in the country, and they can then affect change in the rest of the country by making apps and shows and doing different things to push people in that direction. And they can also make them and affect people in how they think this, or they want you to think this way, so they push things. The narrative, the lingo, everything starts to change on television and on the radio and on these apps, and the things that have been taught in school and in college. And all of a sudden, people start to sway back and forth, and they can adjust it. And they say, we need to push a little bit more here, push a little bit more there. That's because they're collecting all your information. And I'm not an information freak. I don't get freaked out because people know what I'm doing online. I don't care if they know what I'm doing when I'm driving or anything like that. I have nothing to hide. But I'm starting to see Silicon Valley and the handful of big money people that exist in this world, not country, in this world, and the politicians like Justin Trudeau, Obama, who's not stopped doing what he was doing before. He's all over the world influencing people, and the Clintons aren't down and out of it. They just got not the Clinton Global Initiative, the what's their nonprofit called? Why did I forget that? The Clinton Foundation. They just got infused with I don't remember how much money it was, $250 million, something like that. They're not going away. They're not going away. So we'll go to the Truth Zone. I'm going to wrap this up in the Truth Zone. Hopefully you'll share this with people. Hopefully it makes sense. I wasn't all over the place too much. It's clear in my mind. I hope it's clear in your mind. But if you're liberal and you're watching this and you haven't completely sold out to the left and you say, well, I don't like Donald Trump, but tell me what you think and I'll listen. If that's you, forget about Trump. Trump is not the story here. I'm telling you right now. Trump's story was that he got elected and that he I mean, listen, you cannot disparage what this man did with as little as he did, and he just stuck it to the establishments in both of these parties, and really the global establishment. And that was in large part done because of the American people stood together. And somebody was arguing with me yesterday about, well, he didn't win the election, right? I was like, yeah, he did win the election. He didn't win the popular vote, right? Well, that's why the Founding Fathers, which I used to hate the Electoral College until I understood exactly why the Electoral College was created, was to protect against this exact thing and to give a voice to the people that weren't necessarily in the big areas of the city. The rest of the country, it gives an equal opportunity for the rest of the country to stand up and say, we don't like that person, we like that person. But I tell you, he did win the election. But whether or not he's going to have a successful presidency, I don't know. But what he did last year was stick it to these globalists, these communists that have been forward moving. And I don't care if you're liberal or conservative, if you like Trump or not. If you don't like him, you should respect him, because what he did was save your ass. Because if you do a little bit of studying in reality of what's going on in this country and around the globe, you will see what a remarkable job President Trump did in stopping that flow. If you see a river flowing and you throw a big massive amount of rocks right in the middle of it, that river will eventually get through. But at least it's like a beaver dam. At least it stopped for a little while. So you can do whatever you need to do on the other side of the river. The problem is Trump threw a big dam right in the middle of their river, and we're not doing anything. I can't even get, listen, we're up to $25,000 on my GoFundMe page. $25,000. You know what that's done? It's allowed me to continue to do this show at night and go on a couple of trips. We can't create a network of people like Ron Bellin and myself and other truth tellers, people who have experience. We can't create something with $25,000. And I'm not a money person. I'm not a person that comes out here and asks for money comfortably. But listen, we got to realize this, folks. Again, I say this all the time. There's 46 people on Twitter right now. There's 95 people, was around 100 something people on Facebook. Poor old YouTube's got 14 people on it. That is enough people to change the world. If we get together and seek out investors and seek out people to donate money to this cause, we can get this train flowing, and we can at least, while the river is dammed, and I don't care if you're liberal or conservative, forget about those terms. If you care about this country, while the river is dammed, and Donald Trump jumped in the middle of that, put up a dam, a temporary dam, while it's there, we have the ability to go below the river and fix and do all these little things. No, my cause is not supporting Trump. My cause is supporting the United States of America. And listen, if your cause is to solely support President Trump, this country is going to be jacked up in either 4 or 8 years, because the next election that happens where he's not in it, and when he's not elected, this country, the dam is going to be removed, because it doesn't matter if it's a Republican establishment member gets elected or if it's a Democrat that gets elected. We are screwed in this country. The only way we can stand up against the people who own these social media platforms, against the big money people, against the leftist liberals in the media and their narrative, and the people in the government who are spreading this nonsense, the only way we can stand up against that is if we stand together and if we raise a ass ton of money so that we can get this thing started. Listen, I keep saying this over and over again. I said before I went on my first trip out there for the Experts Roadshow, I said I'm going to go on this roadshow for a month. I did. And when I came back, I was going to reevaluate things. Well, I went on there. I came back. And we're in the same position we were in. The numbers didn't go up on the show that great. I think the technology that Jim DeLong got for us allows me to broadcast on several other platforms. But the fact is, the word's not getting out. You know, I turn on over there on old Bill Mitchell's program, and he's got like 1,100 people, and by the time he gets off, he's got like 250,000 views. Or Dennis Michael Lynch, of course, he's paying for all his clicks, but you know, that guy will have 40,000 views on a video. Those people, I don't know Bill Mitchell, he seems like a nice guy. Zero experience. Zero. We have the opportunity now, while this dam is built, we have the opportunity to take the money and the right people, and instead of picking up guns, take the right information and start flowing it into this country. And then hopefully it overflows and goes into Canada, and then down into Mexico, and then over into Europe. And people start to see the reality of what's going on. But folks, listen, this dam is only temporary. And if we don't do this now, we're done. We're done. This shouldn't have to come down to me going on the road in order to raise money. It comes down to this. I'm going to say it one last time. There's a dam that was put in place, a temporary dam, to stop the flow of communism and organized crime in this country and around the world. While that dam is in place, like little workers that God put into place, we have the ability to go downstream where it's all dried up and start planting seeds, raising money, and building our own. Right now, people are thirsty for information, for real information. We have the opportunity to build our own social platforms, to build our own. And when I say our own, I'm not talking about conservatives. I'm talking about free thinkers. That's what it's going to come down to. It's not going to be very long, folks, where free thinking is what's going to get you in trouble. We have a short amount of time to raise the money, a big money, to get this thing started so that we can build an information platform. By the time the river or the dam collapses, and it will be standing so firm that no one can stop the information flow that's coming out. And you look back at world history, you look at the reality of what has stopped the communist flow, it hasn't been any type of super weapon. It's been information. And that's what's going to happen here. So this is your goal. To all of you that are watching this. And forgive me if I'm not saying your right name, Petya. I think I'm saying your name right. She's on Facebook. She comes from a communist country. I've talked to her before. Drago. I have several other friends that grew up in communist countries. Maureen's family comes from a communist country. These people will tell you the creep of communism is happening, although it's not the same as it was before. It's global now. They have their actors in place. And the one thing, as Petya, I think I'm saying your name right, and Drago and everybody else will tell you, what stops the creep of communism is information. I can't say this enough, folks. I can't. I've tried to lay out a picture here for you tonight. If you're liberal, but you don't subscribe to the just believing, if you're somebody, let's forget about liberal conservative. If you're a person that has knowledge, that you have understanding, and you have experience, and you're somebody that likes to see the truth, and you like to hear from people that have real experience, if that's you, then you need to be an investor in this show. You need to take part in spreading the good news that people like myself and others are here. And we need to get this thing off the ground. I mean, I don't know what else to do. This can't go on forever with a dribble here, dribble there, and yeah, I'll do a show every night, and then, you know, in 5 years, I'm going to be sitting in my apartment doing a show? I don't think so. This fight's going to go whether we're here or not. And there will be a day, I can guarantee you, mark my word on this, there will be a day when you will sit back and you will say, damn, I wish I hadn't bought that 6-pack of beer and just at least donated that money. The fact is, I'm sitting here now and I don't even have a freedom to say or do anything. If you don't think that you and the 90 people over here and the 40 people over there and the couple people over on YouTube can make a difference, then obviously you didn't watch the entire last year of the election process. You were the difference. You were the one that started this dam against this communist movement and against this global monopoly of communism. You, the American people, nobody else from another country, despite what the media says, voted Donald Trump into office. You all voted him into office. And you all, whether or not he is the greatest president on earth or not, you all are responsible for damming that river, that flow, and allowing us the opportunity to build a foundation to stand against this movement that will come back. It's still coming. It's still moving. All right. Don't forget to share this show. You see that right there? GoFund.me/The Experts Roadshow. Eventually, I'm probably going to change that. We got to make a change, folks. So, corny or not, you get the music. And here's the thing, I send everybody off on this. It reminds me when I grew up in Arkansas, we go to a Baptist church, and at the end, when the preacher calls everybody down front that hasn't been saved, and he gives you the opportunity to come down there, and they play a little bit of music on the church piano. So many people were touched just by the little bit of passion that was infused in that. Do you all know that reality is with preachers that the majority of people that will ever get saved in the Christian community it has nothing to do with the preacher? It's not the preacher that brings them. It's just a sheer calling from God. The preacher's there to facilitate it, though, and to guide the people. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to guide everybody into the truth. My experience, I'm not the greatest shooter that ever lived. I didn't kill Osama bin Laden. I didn't solve the biggest case in the FBI. But I'll tell you what I did. I served in enough of these government agencies that I saw failures and I saw why things were failing. And God allowed me to have an overall view of things so that when I stepped out of the government and was able to turn around and look back, I was blown away by what I saw. It was not at all what I thought it was when I was inside the government. Not at all. You work for a government agency, you're just a pawn. The people that are at the top, they don't care. They are a mighty river that's flowing, and it is backed up by trillions of dollars of American taxpayer monies every year. The crazy thing about it, though, is, folks, we the people are like the ultimate nuclear weapon. We can stop any tide. We can stop any flow. We can change the course of any river because we control the money. We control the manpower. We control the destiny of this country, not the politicians. We allow them to do it because we don't realize if we stand together, we control that. We own it. The government doesn't use their own money. We give it to them every year. Those planes that they fly to bomb in other countries in war, that's not our government. The government didn't build those. We built those. The men and women that go off to war or put on a badge and deploy every night into the streets of the inner city, that's not the government. That's us. That's the people. We have to stand together. If you're not willing to help fund this show, if you're not willing, if you just turn this off and say, man, that guy, he's fired up, he's right, and then you never take part in the solution, you are directly responsible for the result. Remember that. You either get on board or you just jump in the boat with the rest of the people sailing down the river. I know where I'll be. Like a good frogman, I'll be doing my operations. I'm Jonathan Gillum. Old Rico's down there asleep, feeling a little bit better. I'll see you tomorrow on The Experts. And remember, folks, we the people, we changed the tide, we dammed the river. We got to work together now. I'll see you tomorrow. The truth has arrived.